everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for a new episode of A New Go of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya Chrysanthon, and joining me today is John Horwedel, who is the VP as well as Corporate Treasurer of Impact Marketing. Welcome to the show, John. I'm so excited to have you on today.
All right. Thanks, Anya, for the opportunity. It's great to speak with you.
Likewise. So, John, we'd like to kick things off by giving our listeners a little bit of a background on who you are. So if you can tell us your life story, how did you end up where you are, and what is impact marketing?
It's actually a very unique story. I'm an engineer by training. I have a master's in robotics, and I worked in that field for 20 years. And I came here to Dallas from Massachusetts with a sales and marketing role in telecom. I eventually married my wife, Donna, who's the president of Impact Marketing. And she little by little pulled me into the company, and I started taking on more and more roles and became her right-hand man. And so we work at home, live together, see each other around the clock, and make it work.
Nice. So you guys were one of those unique, rare couples that can actually play together and work together and get along. So
yeah, not an easy thing to do, right?
For sure. No, over the summer, my kids are at home except for the baby, and my husband works from home sometimes. And it's like when they're all here, I'm just like, oh my gosh, where can I go to get away from all of it? So it definitely can be challenging. So what do you guys do at Impact Marketing? Tell us about the company.
Sure. We offer secret shops, or we call them video mystery shops. In this shop industry, there are people that shop diners, Walmart, Target, etc. We specifically only service the new home builder industry. So we picked that as our niche market. It's been that way for 20 years with this company. And we've got the advantage of advanced technology now for these undetectable cameras that can be worn under someone's clothing. And we tend to keep the location secret. And we love to help sales management find out how their people are doing and offer them coaching skills to improve their skills. My wife and I actually go out and do shops ourselves. We have over 300 shoppers around the country to do this work for us, but it's a little extra value when we go out as a couple and do these shops, some shops ourselves. And we're able to stay on the front lines and see what it's like. So I learned a tremendous amount about industry trends because we're out in the field actually shopping for homes regularly, and we watch the videos of the others that are doing them, and we get to compare one home builder sales team to another. It's an incredible amount of information we get, and we share that with our customers.
That's awesome. And I'm sure you guys have no shortage of home builders to visit in Dallas area, because the area is definitely booming with new construction. And what a fun job you have. I'm jealous. I love going into sales offices like most of the marketing people in home building industry. You get to see beautiful models. And I produce a lot of content. So I take every opportunity to take photos, videos, whatever. But what a fun way to see how people treat you from builder to builder, from even, I'm sure, within the same builder, such a range of superstars to not so great people. So I am dying to hear some stories, which we'll get to, because I'm sure you have quite a few stories. But John, do you do these shops primarily for salespeople sitting in the office, so your on-site salespeople, as you would call them, or does it include OSCs, online sales counselors? Because certainly a lot of shopping behavior starts online these days.
Yeah, that's a great question. When COVID hit, sales offices were shut down. We released a virtual shop product where we would pose as a buyer who is going to go ahead and now look at the online inventory and potentially close on a home without ever going there, or maybe just set up a visit for closing or for a final decision. So ever since that 2020 event where we were 90% or more virtual shopping, we've created more and more offers like an OSC shop, an internet shop. So we have a number of different products we can offer, and we tend to recommend to our customers that we do indeed shop their OSC team, and we gather information and write a report about how responsive they are. Did they follow up? What questions did they ask? And often we'll uncover that they're overwhelmed and they really need to hire some more because, to no fault of their own, they just can't keep up with the volume. Or we may find that somebody's just not that available, or they try to close the sale themselves, the OSC does, without ever giving the lead to the local community. We see all sorts of things that are interesting to those who order those products from us.
Before we get into all the nitty-gritty of secret shopping, I would love to know the process. So I assume it's the sales manager who would hire you to shop their people. And I know as an ex-on-site salesperson, it is horrifying to know that at any point you can be shopped, and every single person who is really interested in your community, you think that's definitely the secret shopper. In reality, athletes, professional athletes, get themselves on video, right? Like they review videotapes of their performance, they learn from that, they look at their competitors on video, and it's the best way to learn, because unless you can see yourself in action, it's very difficult to make those changes. Just like people are not crazy about appearing on video, for example, but I always say the more you do it and the more you can watch yourself back to see what you're doing. If you're doing something super cringy, that's the only way you can really correct that behavior, is by observing yourself. So I would love for you to take me through the process of what does that secret shop typically looks like.
Yeah, sure. And that's awesome that you have that experience. And yeah, I do often get calls from salespeople that are of the same mindset. And I try to explain that game film that an athlete might look at. If I look at myself on video, I see that I have hand gestures, mannerisms. We learn so much by watching ourselves on film. So it really can be valuable as long as it's not used as a gotcha, but rather as a training tool. And it's so important to set it up that way. And the salespeople have to agree that they know they're going to be shopped at some point, and it's to be used for training and improvement. And we have to really look at it like that. And yes, the sales managers or vice presidents are the ones that order these shops, but sometimes it's a sales training organization. Some companies are so large that they have their own sales training department and they run the shop program. And some others will hire a third-party training organization to do that. So we also get some business through training organizations, and they tend to be very well coordinated. They know what to do. They customize their scorecard. So the process starts with that conversation about our product options. Would you like to shop the OSC team first? And then after we get a good feel for how well they're doing, any improvements you might want to make to that team, then we tend to ask the OSCs to be part of the process and not give away that they're setting up an appointment for a sales team, because we don't want to go through and waste everybody's time doing qualifying a lead when it's really just trying to get a secret shop scheduled for the field. If there's an OSC team to evolve, we shop them, and then we pull them in on it, and they set up appointments, they set up a storyline. So it may be that a customer says, yeah, we've had some say, most of our customers are couples. We want you to send a couple in. Or they may say a certain age group, millennials, or there's a certain ethnic buyer in this community. They'll give us a profile that they want us, here's the storyline. We want you to say that you like the house, but it's too expensive. So they'll tell us some of the objections sometimes that our shopper is to bring up. So they're testing to see how the salespeople respond. Interest rates are one that, talk about industry trends, right? Interest rates are up, prices are going down. What's your deal? How do they respond to it? Do they say, let's find a home that you love first, and then we'll talk about the incentives to get you to close? So all that is in the storyline, Anya. And once we get the storyline down, the next step in our process is we set up a scheduler to go find a shopper that meets that criteria and who can go to that area. So sometimes we set up a route for our shopper. We want you to do 5 shops in this city and then travel to a nearby one and do another 5 shops. The process is, once they've agreed to shop, say 20 people, we set a schedule. We tell them what the dates are. We get a shopper to go out there. They record the film. They send that film back in. We edit it. We score it. And the scorecard we use is chosen by the customer. If they're a Jeff Shore customer, we have a Shore 4-2 formula scorecard. And if they've been through the training and they should be doing certain things, we score how well that they did that. And then that finished product then goes to the customer. They're able to pull up a video, and right alongside the video, we have some proprietary technology that has the scorecard there and how many points they earned. So if somebody doesn't have time to watch a 2-hour video and then remember the whole thing, what they can do is go to a scorecard area where they did well, or maybe didn't do so well, click on a button and it takes them right to that section of the video where they earned the points, or I guess if they didn't earn the points, there's no place to go in the video. The salesperson will often be asked by their manager to watch their own video and then offer up in a coaching session what they think they should do better. And that's the way we think it works best.
Oh,
Does that answer your
that'd be
question?
crazy for most salespeople, as I can imagine. But again, I think there's really no better tool than to learn by watching yourself. And of course, John, we just had a pleasure of seeing you and your team at Jeff Shore's Sales and Marketing Summit in Nashville. So it was just a week ago we came back from, and we've got so much great information from the summit, so much energy, inspiration. But the question is, are people actually implementing the training that they learn at these events, right? Most of them probably are taking notes. Maybe they have an idea to come back and implement that with their team or just individually. And I bet you most of them are actually not acting on that. So since you see so many people, whether it's reviewing the shops yourself or actually shopping them yourself, what are you seeing that people are doing really well and really poorly? Do you see that there's a trend of certain things that is happening right now?
Yeah, great question. I do. I think in general, there are always things that people do well, and then in general, some things that the whole industry could use improvement on. So I'll talk to that. And I just want to say that we find, and this is supported by research in a number of different training areas, that about 50% of what's learned in training gets implemented right away. We all learn by doing. So no matter what the task is, if we just sit in a classroom or even a conference room, you'll notice there's workbooks. You want to have active participation. That increases learning, retention. And then you want to go out and do it. If you do it and then you watch yourself on film do it, and over time you develop memorized dialogue, pattern, sequence, the scorecard, the 4-2 formula, and you've been practicing it so many times that you do it well. So in general, our customers that repeatedly use a shop program and training, their scores are 85% or better for their whole team. Other teams, maybe it's the first time, the trend is usually that half of them do well and the other half don't, and for a variety of reasons. And it's the value of our product that we share that. But it's also important that we say what they do good. So what do they do? I can tell you right now, the industry trend of interest rates going up and pressure to lower prices is relevant. The question would be how well, when I go out and shop people, what are they doing? How do they respond to questions about, can you lower your price? And I don't know if I want to buy now. The interest rates just keep going up. I've noticed this is a good thing. In general, the salespeople are well trained to say, let's make sure we find your dream home first. And then we do have some incentives, and they present their preferred lender incentives in a way that motivates the buyer to close now. They say things like, when the interest rates go down, prices are going to go up. So you really want to lock this deal in now. And we have incentives where you can get 10,000, 20,000 off of your closing costs if you close with our preferred lender, or you can use that to buy down your rate. And they start narrowing it down to a monthly payment, because in general they seem to really know well for a home price $500,000 or $600,000, it's about a $300 increase in mortgage payment that they've experienced if they shop for that same home last year. They know these numbers. They know how to dialogue with their prospective buyers. This is something I see that's done well in the industry. And I think the trends, go ahead.
Sorry, that's great to hear that, because I think in the beginning, when we started to see the interest rates going up, most salespeople, and again, most salespeople were hired after 2018 or 2008 saga, right? Like they haven't never sold in the rising interest rate environment. So it's great to see that as an industry, we seem to quickly gotten some training on how to talk about interest rates. So that's awesome.
It is, and it must be evidence that works, right? That they're seeing results from doing that. And they're doing it. I think some of the things that, no matter whether it was pre-2020 or during 2020 or now, the things that when someone comes out of training, they don't often just immediately do because it's not nature. They have to train themselves to do it. Discovery, Anya. Do they, when the customer walks in, do they say, this is what we have? Tell me if you like anything. Or do they do discovery? Why are you here? What do you like or not like about where you live? I did a shop recently where somebody had a little note card where they said, excuse me, and they asked permission to ask questions and then began to ask what I didn't like about where I was living and fill out the card. So it's okay. They went through 4-2 training. They got the number, they got the 4 things there, the fears and the dissatisfactions and the dream home. They have these 4, the costs, they have the 4 items on a card and they've been trained. And not only that, but they have to fill out that card to prove that they did discovery. Wow. So
That's
that's sales
awesome.
management. They want them to demonstrate with every person that walks in the door. I got to share with you, I got a call from a salesperson who thought they had been shopped because their friend who works there said, yeah, my teammates, they have their shops. How come I can't log in and see mine? I said, when your sales manager is ready to have a coaching session with you, they'll let you know. And I don't know whether this person had been shopped or not, but she wanted to find out. And I said, if you're on your A game all the time, what difference is it? Just bring your A game all the time. Isn't that the goal? So you mean now everybody that walks in the door, I'm going to have to show them the model home. Oh, I'm going to have to do that now. It's a funny
That,
story.
but that's exactly, I think, is one of the advantages of openly using your service in telling the sales team, right? Like, especially, I think the first time they get shopped, like, it's great if it's a surprise for them and nobody knows that the sales managers use this tool, because then you can really get genuine response, right? But if they know that this is the tool that you are using and it can happen at any point, that's an extra incentive for somebody to stay on top of their A game. And not that they shouldn't be, like you said, right? Every single time we should be. But if they know in the back of their mind that this could be a secret shopper, I bet you it's going to motivate your sales team to do that much better.
Somehow they'll make a decision, and it could be, we all do first impressions, right? They'll maybe decide that this buyer isn't serious or isn't, within seconds, they'll make their own first impression decision whether they want to spend time with that client.
Yeah.
That's what's going on, instead of, I'm going to bring my A game regardless, and we're going to see where it goes.
Yeah, so sounds like we need some help with the discovery process. They're probably doing a lot of feature dumping as opposed to asking questions, which is tough, especially for new salespeople. I think when most people start in sales, they don't realize that sales process is that discovery part and not so much dumping as much information on the client and overwhelming them with all the knowledge that you have, that we are so eager to share why our builder and why our product is so much more superior to our competitors.
And people that consistently go to training, get training, and practice it, they do well. They just do.
That's great. So training works, and especially if you can reinforce it with some video shopping, that's great. Now, John, I'd love to shift a little bit over to the OSC part and ask you, say, what are they doing well and what they're not doing so great?
Yeah, and I've watched them evolve too, Anya. Things have become much better, much more sophisticated. I would say in general, if they have enough staff and enough time to handle the volume of work that they get, they do well. I think it's a fine line between when you've qualified a lead and when you hand it over to a community. The ones that do it really well simply determine what you're looking for, the community you're looking for, enough information to hand off to the sales agent, and then schedule you an appointment to go there and visit. And if they do that in a fairly short amount of time, then that's good. 10, 15 minutes seems like it should be enough time. It used to be that they may not be that familiar with the communities and where to point you on their website. We've gotten better than that. Those days are, thankfully, we're beyond those days. They know their communities, they know their website, they know how to guide you through a virtual tour of a community or a property. Hallelujah, those things are going great. I think the possible last refinements are just, are they available? If you have to leave 5 messages over the course of a week and nobody gets back to you, we feel uncomfortable that we haven't done a shop, but it's, hey, wait a minute. This is good information to feed back. This is happening to whoever the prospective buyer is too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's so many more even tech tools available to OSCs that they can find information very quickly at their fingertips. Even now, it's so easy to integrate a chatbot into your website where you don't have to necessarily use it externally, but even internally, where you can say, hey, of our local communities, how many have the five bedroom option, and it can pop up for you right away, so you're not spending so much time searching. And yeah, it's great to hear that they know the communities, they know the floor plans, they know what's available, because that definitely makes a huge difference when you're calling in. You don't want just to talk to somebody who's let me research, which again is fine as long as you actually get back to them, but to get some of the quick information that people are asking for. And what could they be doing better?
That's a great question. I struggle with answering that. And I really wanted to, curiosity of mine. Let's say we did an OSC shop with somebody who was using a Nugo. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, what would that look like? Would they direct us to a site that's really powered by a Nugo technology? And would they guide us through selecting home features? Is that what they are supposed to do?
I think it depends. So with our technology, it is designed to allow shoppers to go through the process independently, but we definitely don't want to exclude the salespeople from that. So it also allows salespeople to be present with them. For example, even things like virtual tour, instead of having your client go through a virtual tour on their own, some of our technology allows that guided virtual tour where you're in it together and you can see exactly what your clients are doing, and they can go off on their own. You can bring them together just like you would in a real model home, and you can showcase certain things, or again, let them go off in their own corners, husband, in the basement, wife in the kitchen, whatever it is that they do. Our belief is that the best technology is the technology that a 2-year-old can use, right? Like your iPhone is so easy to use, like they know exactly what to do, how to swipe. So we are trying to make our technology the same way, where no matter your age, no matter your tech background, anybody can just start looking, designing, clicking. It's very intuitive. But at the same time, I think it is great for OSCs to introduce that to the client and get them engaging, because once they start engaging with that, the best part is that you can see everything that's happening on the back end. So now when OSC comes in the next day, they can see exactly which floor plan the client picked. They can see exactly which site they picked, what options they picked, down to the colors, every single thing. So it makes follow-up a lot easier. And now you can act more as really a counselor, a guide, as opposed to just, hey, I'm wondering if you're still interested in this home. I'm just following up, because you don't know anything about their behavior versus you have all this data. Now it's just not to be creepy about it, but to be helpful and guide them. If, for example, they keep selecting certain feature in the floor plan, we have another floor plan that will offer that feature automatically. And actually our AI will automatically suggest it to them. You can utilize that as well. So
I think you just helped me answer the question about what they can do better. And it's in their follow-up and retention of whatever interaction you had with their website and their tools. That certainly is taking the OSC world to a new level. And then just knowing when to hand it off to an in-person on-site visit.
Yes, I think that's follow-up's always been the biggest pain point for, I think, any salesperson. Salespeople hate to follow up. OSC on site doesn't matter. They all dread it. I think nobody's, oh yeah, follow-up is my favorite part. But yeah, if you have the tools to make it easier and you feel like you're actually providing value to the client when you're following up instead of just like annoying and nagging, then it makes a world of difference.
Yes, you need to offer value in the follow-up. This is part of short training and that I try to implement ourselves. Anya, sometimes we'll spend a year or more following up with a customer, and then finally we do get business, or they move to another company. But we've established that relationship by trying, not just pestering for them to order shops, but maybe offering podcasts. What we're doing now is sharing industry trends and information. So as we do that as an ecosystem, we offer value to one another.
Absolutely. So John, I'd be curious to shift gears a little bit. And I would love to hear some of the stories that I'm sure you guys have few stories of you would not believe that this person did this. So give it to us.
We do. And I'm almost embarrassed to say, because sometimes people, they don't want these things to be talked about, but I do certainly. And they're really stories mostly that my wife has shared with me, or I will overhear her on the phone. And I'll give you some that are maybe not so shocking, and then a few that are shocking. I still remember one call where we have a shopper out in the field and they're parked at the model and the door is locked and nobody's there. And this actually happens, I want to say, at least a few percent of the shops. We do 100 shops. There's going to be 3 to 5 where the same scenario plays out. So nobody's there. We have an appointment. We call the manager. So our back office, we reach out. Sales manager reaches the sales associate who's supposed to be there, says they're there. I'm there. Sales manager calls us back. She's there. We have a camera on site here and we'll record this, but no one's in the office and it's locked. And sometimes there's a phone number on it and legitimately they're out in an appointment with a buyer, right? But sometimes they're just not there. They're off on personal time. And
wow. I'm surprised with that because I would think most sales centers have a security camera of their own just for monitoring for safety. Like I remember when I used to work for Ryan Homes back in the day, we did have security camera basically that would record when you're coming in, when you're leaving. So there was no point in even trying to pull something like that because you'd be on camera. So I'm surprised that most don't have that.
I think it happens because the sales managers are just really busy and they can't be at every site at once. And salespeople will switch days off. They'll adjust their personal schedule, will dictate whether they're in the office or not. And if nobody knows, right? Maybe they're making their sales numbers, so the numbers aren't off and they needed some time to go do something. So it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. There's times that my wife, Donna, our president, shares with me that she's going into a shop and maybe somebody's daughter's at the front desk and they're upstairs taking a nap. Those are the more shocking things that might happen.
Wow. Okay. Taking a nap.
There was one time I remember it not just being, they weren't alone in the office on private time. There were extra people there. So that one is even more shocking. And that's like a 1 in 1,000 that happens. So that really doesn't happen that often. These are sometimes small things that people will make a big deal about. And it could just be that how they're dressed that day. Like it's as if they're working from home and they really didn't put business attire on appropriately.
Right.
So the good news is that those things are relatively rare. And mostly what we're looking at is just people improving their discovery or closing. I didn't mention that one, and I worked in sales for a while too. And when I hear that other people aren't asking for the sale and I reflect on my own behaviors, always, all of us, we don't have a natural personality of asking for the sale. Some people do, but it's rare. You really need to train yourselves. You might do a trial close. You might ask them how this rates compared to other homes. But unless you say, can you put a deposit down today? You haven't really asked for the sale. And it's amazing how close some people, most of the salespeople come close, but don't actually make that final. It could be gone tomorrow. Somebody walks in tomorrow, that house is gone, your dream home that you love. All you have to do is put X dollars down right now. And, I don't know whether it's refundable or not, but just try to encourage them to lock it in right now. It happens maybe 1 out of 10 shops that I do that somebody does that. And I end up being very impressed. Wow, good for you.
Yeah, you think good for you for doing your job, right? So that's definitely something we can do better. And I know personally it is kind of a funky way. You don't want to come off too strong, right? If they're interested, they'll ask. But yeah, you got to ask for the sale. So I'm glad to see that most come close to it. And that seems like we are doing a better job again of that, because in the beginning of the market shift, I think most salespeople were really not doing any of that we were still stuck in that. I'm just here to demonstrate. And if you want it, you line up. And if you don't buy it, the next person will buy, right? The order taker role. So I'm definitely excited to see that there's been an improvement, and it's proof that training works. So be sure, sales managers, that you are actually spending time with your salespeople, training them. And again, I cannot stress enough how important it is to give feedback, constructive feedback, And utilizing something like impact marketing is a great way to do that. Not only you get to show your salespeople what they're not doing great, but also what they are doing great. And again, if they know in the back of their mind that this is something that could be taking place on a regular basis, they are much more likely to be on their A game. So John, as we wrap up today's podcast, is there anything that I didn't ask you today or we didn't talk about that you think is important for our listeners to know?
I think in summary, I'm very happy to have the time with you and to just talk about the industry. The more we do that, the more we sharpen our own skills. And we're always looking for ways to improve our product offerings. And I think in the OSC world, there's probably more work to be done there to really create a product that helps. And I appreciate information from yourself and from sales managers on what we need to do to improve performance of OSC team members as well.
Absolutely. And I think, again, luckily, in the last few years, there's been an explosion of OSC services available, training. So if you don't currently utilize an OSC, there's definitely companies that will help you hire in-house, whether you outsource, and to continue that training just like you would with on-site salespeople. So John, if somebody wants to work with impact marketing, they want to work with you, where do you hang out online? What's the website? Tell us how to get in touch with you.
Oh, thank you for asking that. impactmrkt.com. It's impact market without the vowels.com. And you'll see the leadership team there, our smiling faces, contact information, even a form to order a shop. Our corporate phone number is there. If somebody wants to call, that's 972-294-2223.
Perfect. And John, if somebody wants to connect with you personally, is there somewhere you hang out online? What's the best place to do that?
Yeah, it's either phone call or email. They can certainly reach me directly, and I can provide my direct cell phone number is 214-402-6145. And I'm John, John, at impactmrkt.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, John, for being on today's show and for sharing all the information. Again, I cannot believe some of the stuff that's taking place, but overall, I feel very optimistic that our salespeople are doing an overall better job of talking about interest rates and asking for the sale. So thanks for being on today's show, and talk to you very soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.